got a score to settle with that son of a bitch.
Devil May Cry.
What's up guys, my name is RBG and we are back with more coverage on Devil May Cry 5. Now that the dust is finally settled for Spider-Man PS4, I can finally talk about some of the more exciting news floating around YouTube, which is the leaked footage from DMC5 that has the community buzzing. But before we get into that, I'd like to remind you that this upload is sponsored by Molno. Since you guys have supported this channel, I've linked up with Molno to give you their brand new gaming mouse. It features a high FPS rate, 7 different switches such as the back and forward button, an adjustable DPI, micro switches backed with LED lights, and much more. The shipping and handling averages around $5 depending on your location, and the link will be in the description box below, so make sure you jump on that while the offer lasts. But getting back on track, you guys have been sending me a buttload of messages regarding the very spoiler heavy leaks. Unfortunately, I won't be able to overlay that footage with my commentary because Capcom could potentially pull the video down, causing me to have a copyright strike. So I'll just talk about some of the more prominent moments that have pretty much confirmed some of the theories we've had. I just gotta say that whoever is leaking the footage is a legend because this is the second time we had an incident like this happen. The first one was the snapshots we got about a month ago that confirms that Lady will be in the game. I know that's been one of the most asked about questions, like where's Lady and Trish? Like, Lady is in fact in the game because you can see a snapshot of her being laid out by the big mystery demon who I'm going to be talking about later. I'm just going to assume that this takes place around the same time as the leaked footage we got this week. Because of the environment, it looks like the same location we see Dante, V, and Nero in. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and backtrack and talk about a particular character who some seem to be in denial over. Back when the announcement trailer released to the public, it featured a rather mysterious character who ripped off Nero's arm. Based on the overall attire, many including myself came to the conclusion that it was Nero's estranged father, Virgil. And there were some who agreed with me, and there were a lot who flat out slammed this theory, saying that I'm a noob who doesn't know what he's talking about, and how can that be Virgil when his body blew up after suffering defeat at the hands of Dante in DMC1. And I think these arguments are all understandable when you don't really analyze the lore as heavily as I do, because I can think of a ton of ways the power-obsessed warrior can make a return, and this leaked footage seems to corroborate some of my theories. During a moment where Nero's working on his Devil May Cry business van, his Devilbringer arm starts to glow. Now there are several factors that contribute to why it reacts this way, but one of the main reasons is because there's a strong demonic presence of a person or weapon. The first time we saw the Devilbringer go crazy like this was at the beginning of DMC4 when Dante appeared in the Opera House where the Order of the Sword was holding their ceremony, and then later in Agnes' facility when he resurrected the Yamato. So the Devilbringer tends to go haywire when it's close to something that has ties to Sparta. That seems to be the case with this mystery guy who walks into Nero's garage. As he draws closer, the Devilbringer begins to glow, and that's when Nero asks the mystery man if he's a demon. Kitty A comes out to remind Nero that dinner is ready, thus allowing the mystery man to close in and literally disarm him. The most interesting thing to take away from this scene is what the man says, stating, and I quote, "I'm taking this back," after which the arm then changes to Virgil's sword, the Yamato. Now before we elaborate more on this moment, I think it's only right that we go back to the ending of DMC4 in my first breakdown video. Back when I made that breakdown, I mentioned that I didn't know the whereabouts of the Yamato, but many of you reminded me that Nero had absorbed it into his arm after Dante told him that he could keep it. Lo and behold, your assumptions were in fact correct. The sword was still in the Devilbringer, and there's only a few characters who could know about its whereabouts, whether it be the ones who saw Nero absorb it, or the ones who have a connection to it through the blood of Sparta. This mystery man wasn't necessarily around when Nero absorbed the Yamato, but he does seem to have a connection to it. Now we all know that the Yamato and Rebellion were swords that were once wielded by Sparta and given to his sons. And they're even able to bring out the wielder's true potential, as we saw at Nero during the 4th mission where his power was awakened after Yamato's resurrection. Similar to Sparta's Force Edge, Virgil's sword could be used to seal pathways to the demon realm, but it also possesses the power to cut through anything, including the very fabric of space itself. It seems like this mysterious figure doesn't need any instructions on how to use the magically imbued blade, since he literally cuts through reality like a piece of paper. But before he jumps into the portal, he mentions that he's running out of time, which leads me to my next theory. There seems to be this big tug of war going on for rulership over the demon world. During the boss battle with Goliath, he mentions that he needs Nero's blood to rule the underworld as king. So it could be that Virgil's in a rush to seize his opportunity to take the throne. Another theory I have is how he possibly got his body back. In DMC1, he exploded in this big flash of light after he was defeated by Dante, but we didn't really see what happened to his actual body. Now, it's obvious that Virgil was possessed by Mundus at the end of Devil May Cry 3, however, it isn't specifically shown how he becomes Nilo Angelo. My theory is that Mundus somehow corrupted Virgil's spirit and transferred it into an even more powerful body. But after the new vessel was destroyed, his spirit returned to his original body. And judging how his outward appearance is so decrepit, he's probably lost a lot of power, hence why he says he doesn't have that much time. So fast forward to later events in the leaked footage, and Dante looks like he's been getting stomped by the Demon King Urizen. Now these events look like they take place way before the ones we saw in the first trailer, because Nero still doesn't have his arm. It also looks like they could possibly be in the demon realm, because Urizen looks like he's bound to that dimension with all the tentacles latched onto his body. Speaking of the name Urizen, I did some research on it because I feel like I've heard about it before. Apparently it's derived from English poet William Blake's prophetic book, The Four Zoas. It consisted of 4 beings representing the different qualities of mankind, and one of them just so happened to be Urizen. In most iterations, he's said to represent the fallen angel, also known as Satan. After he fell from heaven, Urizen set about creating the material world, and his jealousy of mankind brought forth both wrath and justice. I know this is very heavy in the esoteric department, but if this name has any kind of correlation to the original Urizen of old, then I think we have a good idea of who we're dealing with. I mean, being associated with Satan doesn't get any more badass than that. And of course, having characters named after certain historical mythologies isn't anything new to DMC. We have Dante, who's most likely named after the Italian poet Dante Alighieri, or Virgil, whose name seems to be inspired from the Roman poet Virgilius Maro. And there are even devil arms like the sword summoner Lucifer. I can go on, but I think you guys get my point. This Demon King Urizen seems to be the godfather of all demons, and he's probably fallen from grace. I know there's been a bit of confusion of how the demon realm hierarchy works. Like when Asuno announced that the 20+ foot tall boss was the king of demons, a lot of fans were kind of thrown off because they thought Mundus was the king of demons. But that was never stated, because if you remember back in DMC 1, it was stated that Mundus is the Prince of Darkness, totally different from Urizen's status. What I found pretty interesting is that in Mundus' origin, it said that he gained control over the demon realm after he overthrew the previous ruler 2,000 years prior to the events of Devil May Cry 1. That has me thinking that the former ruler may have been Urizen, and he's looking to seize control over the human world. As I mentioned earlier, this guy completely owns Dante, and he does so while relaxing in his demon recliner. Nero tries to take his shot at the underworld overlord, but he quickly gets stomped out too. Now right off the bat, you can tell that this guy is going to be very similar to Armored Xemnas from Kingdom Hearts 2. Like, all he has to do is sit there and throw out random things like energy blasts and lasers. He also looks like he has the power to slow down time if you get caught up in his blue energy fields. Like, there was nothing Nero could do to penetrate his defenses. Just as Urizen was about to finish Nero off with a blast, Dante steps back in and goes full double mode. And let me just say that this moment may have gotten fans hyped, but I was a little disappointed. For the longest time, every entry in the Devil May Cry series has introduced a different version of Dante's Devil Trigger. Dante's demon form is supposed to evolve throughout the series, and the appearance and attributes change depending on the devil arm he's wielding at the time. But it seems like the developers completely lifted wholesale Dante's Devil Trigger form from Devil May Cry 4. Like, it almost looks like a beat for beat copy with minor touches added here and there. Dante has the spiky edges on his head, and he even has the huge cracks in his chest. I know some of your arguments are going to be that this is a direct sequel to Part 4, so it makes sense that it would look similar, but I'd expect his Devil Trigger to change since it's been several years since the last game. Why not go with a more modernized version of the Majin form from Devil May Cry 2, the strongest DT in the entire series? And if they're going to go with a form from Part 4, why not give us an updated version of Dante's Dreadnought Devil Trigger? That's another one of those transformations that not many fans know about unless they've really explored the deeper mechanics of DMC4. It has a powerful presence to it, and it looks just as cool as the Majin form. For those of you who don't know about it, I'll give you a little history on it. It's essentially one of, if not the most invulnerable Devil Trigger, but it can only be used when you've unlocked all the Royal Guard abilities. The form only lasts a few seconds, but you can extend its duration by switching out your weapons precisely at the moment when it reverts back to normal. The glitch was patched for the PC version, but I'm not totally sure if the same action was taken for the special edition. But anyways, that's what I would have went with. Dante's powers increase over time, so you'd expect him to look even similar to Sparta. Plus, his sword Rebellion is constantly evolving along with his demonic powers. Like, a lot of fans have noted that the hilt of the blade continues to change, most noticeably the skull and ribs. We've seen how it reacted to Dante's awakened power after he was impaled with his sword by Virgil. The blood literally transformed it. So there's definitely a connection the descendants of Sparta have with these magical weapons, as I mentioned earlier. Unfortunately, it looks like Dante's special bond with the Rebellion has ended. During this intense moment, Dante tries to block a punch from Urizen, and the Rebellion completely shatters into pieces. And the only thing that's left intact is the handle. This really raised my eyebrow because there are so many questions running through my mind. Like, will Dante find some kind of way to restore the Rebellion? Did its destruction affect his demonic powers? And what will he use now? We've seen him using the motorcycle, which has now been revealed to be a devil arm, but many are wondering if there will be a new definitive sword he'll be using. In my previous video, I talked about how I noticed this huge looking object on Dante's back during a quick close-up. I stated that it was too huge to be the Rebellion and that it could possibly be Sparta's Force Edge in its final form. The sword was given to Trish at the end of DMC 1, but since the Rebellion is in complete shambles, Dante may have asked for it back. Many of the viewers shot down this theory, but I think it's starting to become true. We've seen various leaked images of Dante wielding what looks to be Sparta's sword, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. As for the big facial reveal of V, many have stressed how disappointed they are. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, like it looks fine if you ask me. Like I wasn't expecting him to look like he was bitten by a radioactive Brad Pitt or anything, so it's cool. If anything, I think it's confirmed that he'll have a cane as his main weapon. It was pretty much revealed by Nero in the Gamescom demo.
Sorry to disappoint you. Hey, you happen to see a guy around here about this big uses a cane? I was supposed to meet him. Did you snack on him?
I know that fans have been saying that Urizen is the one who took Nero's arm, because in one scene V tells Nero that Urizen is the name of the demon who took it. But I think that V doesn't necessarily know who Virgil is, so he's just assuming that it was Urizen who attacked Nero. As I mentioned earlier, there seems to be a race to see who will win the throne of the human and demon world, and Virgil just might be making some power plays. But with that said, I'd like to end this video. What are your thoughts on the leaked footage? Are you still not convinced that the mystery man is Virgil? And how do you think Dante will fare without his rebellion? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I ask that you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. Any feedback is good feedback and will only help me improve on future content. But if you enjoyed the video, it would help me out tremendously if you shared it on social media with all your friends and followers. And if you want to support the channel directly, consider donating to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. But anyways, this was your boy RBG signing out on another video. I will catch you guys later. Peace out.